This video will be about probability. Probability is the likelihood that something happens. The formula for probability is given by the number of favorable outcomes, or the number of ways our desired event occurs, divided by the total number of outcomes. Here, P stands for probability. Sometimes, in order to calculate either the number of favorable outcomes and or the number of total outcomes, we have to use combination. An example of this would be if there's a class of 15 girls and 10 boys, and we wanted to find the probability that if a teacher chooses 2 students, it ends up being 1 girl and 1 boy. We could do this by recalling from our last lesson example that the number of ways a teacher can choose 1 girl and 1 boy is combination 15-1 times combination 10-1, and the total number of ways she can choose students is combination 25-2. So now this expression gives us the probability that we get 1 girl and 1 boy out of the 2 people that we choose. Odds are another way of expressing probability. Remember that probability was the number of favorable outcomes over the total number of outcomes. Well, odds is defined as the number of favorable outcomes divided by the number of unfavorable outcomes. So then the odds of getting heads when you toss a coin, there's 1 favorable outcome, getting heads, and there's 1 unfavorable outcome, getting a tails. So the odds of getting heads is 1 to 1. We can also represent that as a ratio like this. A probability histogram is a visual way of displaying probabilities. The way you construct a probability histogram is you list all of the possible outcomes on this axis down here. So that would be option 1, option 2, option 3, etc. And the corresponding probabilities on the y-axis. So for example, if option 1 had a probability of 0.5, then I would label this as 0.5, and I would draw a bar going up to that. And if option 2 had a probability of 0.25, then I would draw a bar to represent that. And let's say option 3 has a probability of 0.1, so I can draw a bar here. And you keep going until you've drawn bars to represent all of the options. Probability histograms are related to probability distributions. Histograms show the probabilities of different outcomes in a graphical way, and probability distribution shows it usually in something like a table. So that would be like saying all of the different options and their corresponding probabilities, and you would list option 1, option 2, 3, etc. And if we were to continue with the numbers from the last example, option 1 has a probability 0.5, option 2, 0.25, option 3, 0.1, etc. Note that one important result of this is that all of the probabilities of the different outcomes must add to 1.